Yo, what up, everybody? My name is TricksterShadow, and today I wanted to talk about something that has been a topic of discussion in the Dead by Daylight community pretty much forever, which is, does size matter? Specifically, does size matter in regards to maps? And so what I did is I did a few different things. I didn't test as extensively as I want to. This may be something that I go through and keep on testing. If I find anything new, then be sure to tell you guys. But I went to the Dead by Daylight wiki, and on the Dead by Daylight wiki, they have these handy dandy diagrams that show you like the basic shapes of each of the maps, and also tell you the square tiles, which you can imagine like shack is a tile, so like you can fit like 176 shacks within Azeroth's resting place. And so it's very useful for like seeing, especially when you like put them together. Like you can see that, oh, Azrael's resting place is 176, and then you have like Wrecker's Yard, which is 144. So they're pretty big difference between the size of these two maps. And so it's very useful for seeing that. And I do like that you can see the shape, because you can see that like Azrael's resting place, of course, people typically describe as an I-shaped map because it's kind of like shaped like a like capital I. But then you'll have maps that are a lot more mundane. Like this one is, I guess, like more like shaped like an arrow. Or you'll have maps like we got some like Colden maps. Colden maps are typically more square, it seems like. And so it got me thinking about like the different things about like how like different ways that like the maps were built, how they affect the games. And so one of the first things that I did is I actually went through and this probably isn't the best way to do this, but it's just how I did it, and I consistently did it for each map, so I feel like it's an okay way to kind of like measure each map's like usefulness. As I went through, and on each map, you can see I just went and I just looped the tile. Uh, I just went to a specific part of the map. In this case, that I went to Azor's resting place, and I went to the office side, which is the main building, and I timed myself looping every tile 3 times. And then after I made 3 laps, then I would see what time it was. And then after I did that, I applied the same. I just did it once per tile, and then after I'd see like, oh, I did it for like rock tile. I got 15 seconds. Okay, for every rock tile I have on this map, it'll be 15 seconds time save, and that's just what I applied to all of them. And from what I've noticed, and this is just my little notes, as you can see, like this one, 125 seconds, time save, 120 seconds. And that's what these are. Like when I say 25-second pallet gem, it's just like a pallet gem is like just a pallet in a window, essentially. And which I guess would be like a jungle gem. People describe them as jungle gem. Pallet gems are just with the pallet. And so what I noticed is, okay, 125 seconds, 120 seconds, 125, 120. Like, oh, that's pretty consistent. And then I got 145 seconds, which was really interesting. And I believe I recorded this one as well. Just it's interesting because of the big variability. And like then we got 115 seconds, and then 135, 140, 130, and another 130. And so we had a variability of around 30 seconds, I think. Wait, do we got a 145? About 25 seconds, I guess. But still, like 25, 30 seconds, that's a pretty big variability in like map strength. And so I believe I recorded, let me see. Is this the one? This may be the one. No, I don't think that's the one I was talking about. Yeah, this is the one. So this is the one from the 140. So we got a long wall right here. As you can see, we got a pallet over here. And then we got the main building, of course. But we also got a rock tile right here. And then we got an LNT wall in the distance. And then we have the crane. And then I believe we have another rock tile. And then over here, you can't see it, but behind the crane, we have a 1 pallet gem, which is just like a pallet with nothing else. Like there's no windows or anything. And so there's quite a bit of resources on this map. Of course, the problem though, like still lies, even though like this side of the map is super stacked. We got 3 pallets right here, and they're all decent pallets. Then we have the main building window into the LNT wall into a long wall. And so this side of the map is, if you get a good survivor, especially a good survivor that can chain tiles together, like go from tile to tile when the killer's not looking, like when they break line of sight, then good survivor can run this side of the map really well. But even though this side of the map is really like heavy in terms of like how strong it is, this side of the map only has the crane, which the crane is decent, but it's not amazing. And then you also have a pallet over here. You got a rock. So if you throw down this rock, half of this side's, I guess, not half, maybe like 30%, because you still got the crane window, but still the crane window isn't that great. But still, like 30 to like 50% of the map, this side of the map's viability is just gone if you throw down one pallet. Whereas if you throw down a pallet on this side of the map, you still have the LNT wall to work with. You have the main building. You have this jungle gym over here to the lower right, or lower left, I mean, along with the pallet in there. A pallet over here. And so you got a lot to work with on this side. And so what it seems like is the it, but actually, before I say this, let me show you the coal tower, because I also did it with coal tower, and because I was wondering, like, is the map RNG just with this map really bad? And so I went to a map that people say that they really enjoy, that they think is really balanced. Went to coal tower, and coal tower is okay. And then I went to like the main building, and I did the same thing where if I encountered a tower for the first time, I'd loop it 3 times, and then I would time to see how long it took to loop it 3 times, and then that's just how I did everything. And so time save of 100 seconds, 90 seconds, 105, 85, 95, 90 seconds, 100 seconds, and then get 95, and then 115 seconds, and then 85. And so having a variability, and this is, I'm using the same criteria that I used for the other Autohaven map. So 115 seconds, anywhere between 80, I think we got 80, didn't we? We got 85. So anywhere between 85 seconds to 115 seconds. Now, that's quite a bit of variability. It doesn't really seem like it's much better than the Autohaven map that we had. But the thing is, whenever I would be on this map, is even if there was a dead zone, like I spawned in right here, it didn't really matter that it was a dead zone because the space between the tiles wasn't that big. And so this really goes into a couple of issues with Dead by Daylight, and these are issues that like Dead by Daylight players have known about forever, but I just kind of wanted to like vocalize in a video that when you have like the bigger maps will try to be like as consistently strong with the smaller maps, but by being consistently strong, like as strong as the smaller maps, they suffer because of it, because then you have instances to where you just have massive dead zones and there's just nothing else. So you'll have times to where like you'll have like the same amount of pallets on this size of Azrov's resting place, which is a lot bigger than inside the coal tower with the main building, and they'll have the same amount of pallets, same amount of resources, but there's just nothing. There's just massive dead zones. Like you can see, like the space between this rock tile over here and that tile over there is quite massive. Of course, you got this main building window, but still, it's quite a bit of a distance that you need to clear. And if this main building window, if it didn't spawn on this side, this would be like a massive dead zone after this pallet thrown over here. This is a massive dead zone anyways. And on coal tower, it would be like half this or a quarter of this. And so this really goes into how I think that, like, me personally, I think that the map should be reduced, because if you want to have all the maps be like a consistent strength or relatively consistent strength between each other, which just seems like with how the maps spawn, it seems like that's what the devs are trying to do. At least through like the very limited testing that I've done. They need to be smaller. Like they need to be like more of a consistent size. Because if you're trying to fit the same amount of balance into like massive maps, which Azrov's resting place is a massive map. If you don't think it is, like we can look at Azrov's. Azrov's is 176 square tiles, and then you look at Mother's Dwelling, which is the biggest map in the game, 188. And so they're not that far off. They're just 12 shacks essentially away from being as big as each other. And so like that's pretty crazy when you think about it. And these maps are being like compared to maps like Coal Tower, which Coal Tower is really, really small. If you've never seen how small Coal Tower is, let me see. I have the, there we go, 132. So we got 188 shacks versus 132 shacks. It's quite a big difference. And these maps are meant to compare on the same level with the like same survivor perks, same killer perks. They're meant to be on the same game. And I don't think this is a good way to work on the game. I feel like if anything, they need to make it to where there's a hard cap on how big the maps are, and if they make it a hard cap on how big the maps are, it'd be much easier to balance the game. Because one of the big issues, or a few of the big issues with Dead by Daylight, is say like you're playing killer and the survivors always run early. Well, if they always run early, let's say like they sprint burst early and they're trying to like just hold W across the entire map, they're not even trying to loop. They can still lead you on a chase for like 20 to 30 seconds without you hitting them, especially if they leave pretty early. And if you have everybody doing that, you're going to lose as killer because you're just not going to be able to get the hits as fast unless you're playing a killer with mobility, like Blight or Billy, so on and so forth, or Nurse. And so if you have that same case on a smaller map, then they're not going to be able to run as effectively because they're going to be hitting these walls a lot sooner. And it kind of balances out the running early, or if they like throw down pallets early, not they will be like screwing over their team, but there's also enough pallets, there's enough tiles within the same proximity of each other to where they're not completely ruining their team. Because if one person throws down a pallet in this map, then like it can just make it to where half of the map is just dead. There's just nothing. But you don't have that same problem on Coal Tower. If you're on Coal Tower, if somebody throws down this pallet over here, this pallet gem right here, you still got the car tile right there, or vice versa. If somebody throws down one, then you still got the other. And so, and they're not like massively strong tiles. They're just they're close enough to each other to where like one can be wasted and there's still enough resources for the rest of the team. Of course, if somebody throws down everything, then obviously the team's going to be in a really bad place. And so I think that they need to reduce the map sizes. And from my opinion, from what I've seen, so we got Coal Tower at 132, and I've asked people like what they thought the best map sizes were. Some people said Dead Dog, which is 136. Seems like people like the 130s. I've also seen some people say Wrecker's Yard, which is the map with the basement in the middle, Auto Haven map with the basement in the middle, 144. So it seems like anywhere between like 130, 145 is where people really like map sizes. And then I've noticed from me asking people, whenever I ask them about a map that is closer to like 145, 150, that's when they start to say like it's a bit bigger. Oh, that's Torment Creek. So like Thompson House. Thompson House is 152. And when I ask people, like, do you feel like Thompson House is a big map? A lot of people would say like, yeah, they feel like it's a bit bigger. And so I feel like if anything, they should cap out the map size at around 150, 155 maybe. And then anything that's bigger than that, they need to reduce down and make it more standardized. Because I don't think there's any reason for a map to be beyond like 150 square tiles. I feel like 150 and below is very good. That leads to a lot of player interaction, which you should want, because I think that's the most fun of the game. Is the players interacting with each other, the killer and survivors, without being able to just like run early or hide really effectively, because the map is so massive that if the killer tries to look for somebody that's hiding, they're wasting so much time if they don't find them, and they got to go across the map and find somebody else, and then by the time they do that, they're just lost. They just lost the game. And so I feel like it'd be very good to reduce the map size. But not only that, I also think that in addition to reducing the map size, what they also need to do is they also need to think about the way that they shape the maps. So one thing that's very interesting about like Azrael's Resting Place in particular is Azrael's Resting Place is 176 square tiles. It's almost as big as Mother's Dwelling. However, this is more of a killer-sided map. People typically see it because a killer can just decide to play on one side of the map and just never go to the other side, and you can effectively cut the map in half. And that makes it pretty strong. And because of like the unique shape, that changes like how it's played. And I feel like we need to see more of that. Dead by Daylight has so many maps that are just like more square in nature, and that I feel like are kind of boring as a result. And so I feel like if they made it to where maps were more interesting in the way that they were like differently shaped, I think that would lead to better gameplay. So, like, for example, if you had, I'm just going to pull a random map. Actually, let's pull a bigger map. Let's pull cash in. I'm trying to pull like a really big map. Sure, Torment Creek. So if you got Torment Creek, I think it'd be interesting if we did something that was like Torment Creek, for example, or like really any of the maps, to where you just had like a massive area to where it's just like blocked off like this. So if people try to like hold W and try to run across, it's a little bit harder for them to do. But there's like a tunnel. There's like a tunnel underneath, and like that intersects, and you can go to different parts of the map through the tunnel, but it breaks up the map, because I feel like having massive areas of the map to where there's no tiles anyways, there's no pallets, because it's trying to be as consistently strong as the other maps, um, but still like lends itself to people just like running early and never interact with the killer. I feel like it's really bad. And so if you have like elements that break up the map that are meant to be like obstructions, not only for the killer but for survivors that they have to get around, I feel like it leads to more dynamic gameplay, more interesting gameplay. So you can have those bigger maps, but they just don't matter as much that they're big, because everybody has to deal with the same burden. But again, like that'd still be better if you just like cut the map like a quarter. I don't know. They just need to do something with the map sizes, and I feel like if they change the map sizes, it would have a lot of changes to Dead by Daylight that we wouldn't even see. Like there's a lot of implications that we wouldn't even see or think of. Because if you change the map sizes, then you wouldn't need as many slowdowns. Because if you make the map smaller, then it takes less time to get to the generators, and so less time can be put into the generators. And typically, if the map is smaller, then you can chain together chases easier, or you can switch between targets easier. And so I feel like the map size is the like one of the big things holding back DBD from really good balance, because it would fix so many things implicitly. And I feel like the longer that they don't do this, and the longer that they release maps that are big as well, like what they did with RCPD, the more the game is going to hurt, the more the game is not going to become balanced, and the more players are going to be frustrated, because no player should have a chance of a dice roll of either getting Coal Tower, which is incredibly small, or getting Mother's Dwelling, which is the size of a planet. I don't think that much of variability should be in the game. I understand that RNG is part of like the selling point for Dead by Daylight, but it shouldn't be at the cost of player fun. All right, sorry about the rambling. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video. And if you guys have anything that you want me to talk about, like any particular discussion or thing that you think that is important to be talked about, or like flesh out a little bit more of like my opinion on it, be sure to tell me in the comments down below. All right, bye bye everyone. Have a good rest of your day, night, or whatever, and I will see you later.